Hello, and my name is Helen Jennings, and I'm a demonstrator based here in Northamptonshire in the UK. And it is lovely to be joining you and be part of this catalogue launch event. Um, so, let me sort of quickly tell you a little bit about myself and where you can find me. I have actually been a demonstrator for coming up for 10 years in this October, and this is where you will find my website, my blog, my links to shops and downloads and all of that sort of inspiration over on a STEM website, which is loveaduckie.co.uk. And if you're looking for me anywhere on Pinterest, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, just look out for Love-a-Duckie, and that is hopefully where you will find me. So it's always lovely to be part of these catalogue launch events and part of the wider global Stampin' Up community. And today I'm going to be sharing a little bit of my excitement about the newly revamped Stampin' Write markers and just some of the ways that we can use them. And I've been concentrating on the in colour markers. So let me bring in my downward facing camera, and you can see that in front of me I have indeed got the 5 in colour markers: the copper clay, the wild wheat, the pebbled path, boho blue, and for us in the UK, that is very definitely moody mauve. And I know that's not how you pronounce it if you are living in the States, but it's definitely how we pronounce it here. So that is one that I think is going to cause a little bit of what? What is that they're saying, depending on where you are in the world. But as I say, for us in the UK, is very definitely mauve. So that is moody mauve for us. So those are the in colours. I am going to be using all of them bar the copper clay, and that's not because I don't love the copper clay, because I do. It's just that that's not one that I'm using in my particular project. I am going to be bringing in a couple of the stamp pads in those in colours as well. So again, moody mauve and wild wheat. And I'm using a stamp set that actually isn't a new stamp set. It is one that you can find on the online store. I believe I am right in saying that it's not available in the catalogue, but it is available in the store as a stamp set. The dies that were available when it first launched aren't with it, but you may have those, you may not. But you don't need the dies to complete this project, and you can have a play with the techniques that I'm going to be using with other stamp sets anyway. So let me move that to one side because I have got the stamps that I want already on blocks. I have got a standard size thick basic white card base there. I've got a first size matte to go on the top in the wild wheat, so that new in colour. So that's wild wheat. And for us here in metric world, that is 14.4 by 10. Elsewhere, that would be 5 1/4. Oh dear, excuse me, by 4. And then I have got next size down in some basic white, but I am going to be having a bit of a play with that, so it's not going to necessarily stay at that size. So what I won't necessarily make the card up completely. I'm going to pop those to one side for now, and I'm going to take this piece of basic white. So it's 13.9 by 9.5 to start with, if you're in metric land, and that would be 5 inches by 3 3/4 elsewhere in the world. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to tear it. Now I know this makes some people feel very twitchy. I do believe we have got a die in the new catalogue that is going to give you sort of torn effect edge without having to tear. So if this is something that really makes you twitch, then that's probably something to look out for. Now, when you're tearing paper, if you want to have this fluffy edge, I don't know how well that will show up really. If you want the fluffy edge, you need to tear the card towards you. If I turn that over, if you tear it away from yourself, you get a different sort of edge on it. But to have this sort of really fluffy edge, and you need to tear it towards you. Let me just get rid of those scrappy bits in my recycling bin behind me. Now I am actually going to take the Wild Wheat ink pad and a blending brush. Now obviously this is a new ink pad, so it is very juicy. I'm going to tap that ink off. I'm going to ink around the edge where I have torn this, and that will pick up that torn edge beautifully. Just tapping off the excess of that ink so I don't get it too blobby. Bring that all the way round, and I'm bringing that colour in just slightly on the edge of that piece of card. And then while I've got this piece of card in front of me, I'm also going to take the scripty stamp from this Queen Bee set. I do like these sort of splatters and details stamps that you get. Now there is a right way and a wrong way. I'm going to stamp that off and then stamp it onto my card base. I'm going to put another one there somewhere. I'm not worried too much about this because I am going to be sticking something over the top of it. Just want a bit of detail in the background there. So let's move that to one side for now. And I think that's finished with the ink pads. I think everything else we are going to do with Stampin Write markers. So what I'm going to do is I am going to colour direct to stamp with these markers. Now, as I say, these are the new style markers. They have been revamped, ready for this catalogue. Let me see if I can grab an old style. They are the same length, but if you have a look, the lids are a different length. So although the pens themselves are the same length, the lids on the old style are longer than the lids on the new style. You still have your lines, so you've got to back line that end, which indicates that that is your brush end, and you've got a thin line this end that indicates that that is your sort of nibby point there. The ink in them has, I think, been upgraded to mean that it flows better and gives you better results. But this side you still have a brush tip, as you always did. So if you are colouring larger areas. But this side is the big difference. So let's take the narrow side in here. So there is a very big difference in the ends of these markers. So this one is more of the new one is more of a bullet point end, and it is rather lovely. If ever you struggled with the thin end on the other markers, particularly if you wanted to colour with them, they were particularly difficult. But these ones, if you need to add a bit of colour to those smaller ends, that works beautifully. This new end on this marker, and for writing with and all sorts of things, it is just much improved, a great improvement. But to start with, we are going to be using the brush ends because we're going to do a bit of colouring direct to stamp. So I'm going to start with the pebbled path, and I'm going to pick out the antennae and the legs on my bee. So I'm just going to take the side of my brush end and add colour to the legs of my bee. Obviously, I say you can play with this technique. Remind yourself of this technique with lots of different stamp sets. It could be that you've got flowers and leaves or different clothes, sorts of things that you might want to do in different colours. I'm now going to take the boho blue and I'm going to use that to colour the wings. If you do happen to have a stamping platform of some sort, you can use that for doing this technique, and you can sort of ink up one part and stamp it and then go on to the next colour and stamp it. But because I'm not using a stamping platform, I am going to colour it all in one go. So last but not least, I'm coming in with the wild wheat to colour the main body of this bee. And because I have coloured that all before stamping it, I am going to need to huff on it. Now, the reason that you huff on it is because the ink may have started to dry on the first bits that you did. So by giving it a good huff all over, the moisture and the heat in your huff, in your breath, will reactivate that ink. Few huffs because it's quite a big stamp. And let's stamp that on our piece of card. So there you can see where we've got the pebbled path and 10 iron legs, the boho blue wings, and the wild wheat body. I'm going to take my little moody mauve, and I'm going to take that narrow end and just add some colour to that heart at the top. Now that is all ready to be cut out. Now you'd either need to fussy cut that, sort of cut round. If you are cutting it, make sure to give yourself a border around all of it, because you don't necessarily want to be cutting inside all of those legs and things. But the other thing we're going to do is we are going to do a bit of colouring director stamp on our greeting, and we're going to do a bit of sort of multicoloured greetings. So I've got the happy and the birthday, and I've got them both on my block at the same time. I'm going to start off with some blue, and this is a bit sort of, you know, where it goes, it goes. So let's have a bit of ha and a bit of b just there. Then going to come in with the pebbled path, do a bit down the centre, making sure that I'm not leaving any bits out. It's okay if the colours blend together, but what you don't want is gaps. And then we'll come in on the end with some of the wild wheat. Now, when you've done that, it's worth giving your pen a bit of a scribble, just in case you have picked up any other colours and you need, you know, to wipe that off in case you've got a bit of contamination of your colours. Let's give this a huff, and we'll stamp this on here. There we have that variegated happy birthday. And again, we just need to cut those out. I'll cut one of these out just to show you what I did next. So I'm just snipping around that with a pair of big scissors. I'll be coming in with my blending brush that's still got some that colour on. I've not added any more ink to it. And I'm just coming around the edge of that just to add a bit of that shading to the edge of that as well. So we had our torn piece. We've now got our happy and our birthday and our cut out bee. So here's one that we made earlier. Just simply sticking our wild white wheat card piece to our base, adding in our torn piece of paper, and then using some dimensionals, adding on our little bee and our happy and our birthday to create a card. So that is the main front of my card. One other thing that I have done is I've taken the wild wheat one, And I've used it to make a bit of a border around the edge of the inside of my card, just to show you how lovely these points are. Now you could use a ruler if you are particularly needing these lines to be completely straight. As you see, I've gone in and I've added in some gaps. I'm just going to come in and add in some wiggles in those gaps. Last wiggle. So there we have a border created with that lovely new bullet tip, and you can see just here. And you can add in a little bit of stamping in there as well if you want to, a little bit of blending possibly, just to finish that off. But there's a little card created with our in colours, but more specifically with the in colour Stampin Write markers, and just to show that whether you're colouring direct to stamp, whether you're colouring in areas, whether you are doing some writing with them, however you want to use them, these new Stampin Write markers are just fabulous. And having got some, I now want them all. And if you check out in the new catalogue, there is a bit of a bundle saving if you want to completely replace your entire collection of Stampin Write markers. You do get a 10% off the bundle price of all of those colours. So I hope you've enjoyed that little experiment with those Stampin Write markers and those new in colours. Enjoy all of the presentations in this catalogue launch, and I very much look forward to joining you again very soon for another event. Take care.